I am so pleased and excited to introduce this group of folks who have always been at the roots. We can't talk about the roots without having this conversation. And I am excited to be learning along with you and getting to know JohnElla and this group of folks who she knows well and has brought to us today. So with us we have Dr. JohnElla Holmes, who is the Executive Director and President of the Kansas Black Farmers Association. I just met her. She's been described to me as a force, and I can feel it. So thank you. And with her are Donna McClish. Thank you. Webb Davis. Welcome, Wade. And Ryan Tenney from around Kansas City, I think. Very good. Well, I'm just going to let you take it from here because I think you're going to tell us more about who you are and these roots.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Okay, they're giving us the mic. I'm a retired assistant professor from Kansas State University, and I had those intro classes that looked like this. And I never wanted to just stay behind a podium, so I had to learn to project. Imagine that. But can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, good, good. Okay, so Aubrey Straight called. Oh, you're cute. Oh, how darling. She called and she said, I want to put you in touch with this fireball called Emily, Ryan. I was like, ooh, okay, need more fire in my life. And so they were like, will you do this panel, da-da-da. And I said, we'd love to, absolutely love to do it. And I've got people in mind. Well, being women, type A women, they were like, okay, invite whoever you want, but we want Ryan. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll see if he's available and get him here. But I immediately thought, when they said that the theme was roots, reconnecting, or I forgot what the theme is, but it was connected to roots. I was like, black farmers have always been at the root of growing and plants and agriculture and all that. Yeah, come on. Now, I can get a hype person because I think we got Pastor Smith over here to tell you when to clap. But, so I said, we've always been at the root. And what they need to know is that I get so tired of hearing, there's black farmers in Kansas. Well, yeah, that's how we got here in 1877. We came to farm and to have land. We were promised that, 40 acres and a mule and that whole thing. And so when I was thinking about it and I was discussing it, I said, we're going to use the metaphor of a tree. I'm going to give you the roots. I'm going to give you just a little bit of history because up here, I'm the most boring person up here. Donna McClish, oh my goodness, everything she touches turns to gold, and she does indeed feed everybody. And then when I met Webb, he came out to Nicodemus because I live in historic Nicodemus. I retired and I moved out there because I needed to make sure our community was going to survive. And Erin, that was up here, she and a team from K-State are working with us to preserve that history and to get that project all done for us. So there's those connections. But I also thought of this most interesting man from Missouri that is wanting to connect and got me involved with Farm Action Group and wanted me to do flyovers. And I said, during pandemic, I'm not flying over anything but my living room couch. And so we did it via Zoom. And so introducing me to legislation and that sort of thing. And this is a real farmer. And so I said, the base of that tree, this is a metaphor, so you got to picture it in your head, right? The base of that tree has to come from the farmer. And then I thought, Donna, we can't do anything without Donna McClish because she She has grabbed this by the horn, and she'll talk about her 80-year-old farm that her parents started and how it's been swallowed up by Wichita, but they're still standing, and what the great projects that she's doing. And then I said, of course, I'm going to do what Emily and Aubrey told me to do, and that's get Ryan. And I actually got to go out to his farm, and what he is doing absolutely blew me away. He's going to make sure that that next generation, and where's his better half, the cute one? Yeah, over here, over here. She should be up here too, because it was her call that got me involved with them. And I want to do more, and we've received some grants to do some things. Now the roots, they look ugly because we had to share-crop. We came over as slaves. And in the early 2000s, I had my notes up here, they're gone. In the early 20th century, thousands and thousands and thousands of black farmers. We're talking in the hundreds of thousands that had farms. In 2022, maybe about 14,000 in the entire United States. What has happened to our black farmers? In 1983, a black farmer out of Nicodemus, Kansas, watched and made record of how the USDA dismantled his farm, cut his wheat crop, took it, denied him an additional loan or an extension, and put he and his family on welfare. That was Bernard Bates. Bernard Bates wrote to then President Reagan, and he says, I want to discuss these unfair practices. And that was the start of us wanting to have justice in the farming and agricultural community. Now I can go on and on and on, because we have not been done right. But I'm not. Okay, all right. We're not going to do that. We're going to talk about how we have managed to locate boots, put them on, even if they're the wrong size, and move forward. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But if you've got an organization, I'll be happy to come and talk to you about all this other stuff, you know? And the American Rescue Plan, okay, all right. It's not rescuing anybody, okay? But I'd be happy to talk at some other time about that. But right now, I need you to know what we're doing. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Webb Davis. And he's all organized. I'm not. I had notes that closed down on me. But we're going to give you Webb, and he can introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Webster Davis. Can the people in the back pews hear me? Yeah. In the last 100 years, we've lost land and opportunities. Access to markets is an issue that remains unto this day. Without access to markets, all farmers labor in vain. Therefore, I'm proud to be a senior policy advisor at Farm Action. At Farm Action, we understand that discrimination against black farmers, indigenous communities, and people of color are symptoms of the same extractive mindset that degrades the land, abuses animals, traps rural communities in cycles of poverty and social strife. We cannot solve one of these issues without considering all of them. We can only achieve a more just food system by considering each issue, elevating the work of groups experiencing hardships, and generating solutions on the ground, and developing a common narrative that brings these diverse stakeholders together. There is a minority registry that lists the various minority farmers in the United States. This information needs to be available to community-based organizations. The USDA has this registry, and they don't seem to want to share it. Community-based organizations need to be brought into the fold of USDA to enhance the ability to work together. We must champion the common good and have knowledge of federal, state, and local regulations that hinder our success. All marginalized farmers face the same basic hurdle. All labor being exploited and all profit potential being extracted by large national and multinational companies. In politics, it is often said that you're either at the table or you're on the menu. It seems that the programs for black farmers are often on the menu. Black farmers must understand the importance of planting the political seeds along with the seeds that go into the ground. We must re-innovate our efforts to ensure profitability and sustainability of future generation of black farmers. If the purchasing power of the USDA and various summer feeding programs money were being spent with black farmers, they could be profitable. We must bring the SNAP program into a healthy food program and profitability program for independent, small and medium farmers. We have allowed national and multinational corporations to gain the lion's share of this market while putting small farmers out of institutional markets. We must be cognizant of the fact that many farm-to-school programs are being controlled by local corporations that control the school lunch programs. We must be allowed to figure out how to create the rules, regulations that ensure that black farmers have a seat at the table and fair opportunity to these markets. One place where there seems to be a lack of black food companies is within the prison systems. Really? Yes, two of these things, the school district that was within 10 miles of my home, I'm in central Missouri. The company that runs, that operates the local school, they're located in Quincy, Illinois. You'd have to go 100 miles backwards to get food 10 miles down the road. And then there's one large produce company that controls the feeding of 31,000 prisoners in the state of Missouri. Yes. When one understands that one farmer in one state can produce and process 20,000 chickens for profit and another farmer in a different state can only produce and process 1,000 chickens for profit, you begin to understand the inconsistency and discrimination against small farmers across this country. You take a chicken, if you get $5 profit off each chicken, then you man raise 20,000, make $100,000. He can actually afford to help some school kid. The other guy, he ain't gonna have no money when he's done. College food laws need to be universal and allow the family farmer to profit from adding value to their products on the farm and in the home while maintaining the health and safety of the food buying public. SNAP benefits need to be modified to allow the recipients to buy healthy food at the farm gate. The future of black farmers will be determined by the ability to innovate and participate in such efforts as building an internet-based cooperative to effectively market the production of black farmers and state-based black farm groups such as Kansas Black Farmers or the new North Florida Cooperative. Well, it would help. This world computer helps. But which worked with Florida A&M University Cooperative Extension. I'm confident they can innovate. It is up to everyone to ensure they can participate. The National Black Farmers Association program needs our whole support. We need to acknowledge that the needs of all blacks rest with the access of fair markets and the availability of food. We need to press forward with forming agricultural committees within the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, bringing in the largest civil rights organization to monitor and ensure that the needs of African American farmers at the forefront of the rules, regulation, and legislation is a strong step toward justice. We will either work together today or suffer the consequences tomorrow and for future generations. The future of all marginalized farmers depends upon networking, marketing, and branding. Networking, the process of gathering together to work with a common goal. Marketing, the process of selling our products. Branding, the process of being identified and selected by the consumer. It is important to understand that before we start planting and raising livestock, hoping for a place to sell our products that we have invested our capital, blood, sweat, and oil into, we need to network and market. Without these, we have labored in vain. Branding is the ability to tell our story so well that others seek out our production. With the advent of technology and social media marketing, we should have no unsold production. The tools are at our disposal, yet we seem content to let others gain the lion's share of the marketplace, even when it comes to feeding our children in the local school program. We must understand that change will not be quick, but inaction will not bring change. The most important thing for the future of black farmers in America is that we make and establish a plan and that we act with purpose. Without plan and purpose, there will be no change for the black farmer. With the work and efforts of many individuals and groups, we have had recent successes. The Justice for Black Farmers Act was written to provide equity, and the USDA Equity Commission is built off the work of Farm Action and other aligned groups. Current legislation in the Inflation Reduction Act includes provision for USDA to ensure underserved producers have resources, tools, programs, and technical support to succeed. Other programs are intended to fund cooperative agreements or grants for projects that help move underserved producers from struggling to thriving. The renewed push for urban agriculture relies on the same issue and the same starting place. It all starts with being at the roots. We have always been at the roots, the black farmer experience. It needs to be recognized that the history of the African American farmer starts before slavery. Africans were eating and farming before slavery. The skills were transported across the ocean and nurtured through harsh conditions. Today, both urban and rural African American farmers need access to land and capital with an appropriate technical assistance. In urban communities, we need to consider allowing individuals and groups to work city lots and those who maintain an income level of $10,000 per lot for a period of 3 to 5 years, getting the land deeded to them. In rural areas, we need to reestablish a way to connect the youth with the land. Asian farmers and eaters need fresh, healthy food. And on a side note, as a kid, when I was growing up, there was always summer work bucking hay. And, you know, the advent of that big hay baler that puts 50 bales in one bale, the kids don't have no work. Now, here's the funny thing. If you went out and bucked hay all day, you didn't go and get in no mischief. You were too tired. You know, the old folks had a secret they didn't tell us. They worked the mischief out of you, you know. Today we could do the same thing with a crop called strawberries. You know, by the time a kid bends over and picks enough strawberries, they won't go out and get no trouble. No, your juvenile officer won't have nothing to do. Yeah. But at Farm Action, we have an eye toward next year's Farm Bill. We have set out 4 pillars for change. Pillar 2 is justice for all. Farm Action, Farm Bill Handbook, Pillar 2, justice for all. Top priorities are equitable access to USDA programs, technical support through BIPAC-led organizations, maintain and grow set-asides for USDA programs, increase transparency and accountability in USDA oversight, equitable funding to HBCUs and tribal colleges. The state of Lincoln University in Jeff City, Missouri is owed millions by the state of Missouri under the 1890 land grant match program. And this thing has went across the nation. The USDA knows that the states ain't giving the money they should be given. But the next year they go after the same thing. Now, on a side note, what is stupidity? Is it doing the same thing over and over again? Insanity, okay. Yeah, what's the deal? And we need to, we need equitable representation of BIPAC farmers on government boards, invest in socially disadvantaged farmers, debt repayment of USDA loans is addressed in the Inflation Reduction Act, improve capital credit access, credit assistance, and succession planning. I hope you will join us as we plan and act with purpose on behalf of America's black farmers.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So the base of the tree has been already built. He's built it. This is good. This is good. Now we're going to move up to that trunk of the tree. You know, that's where you really stand. And so I'm going to have Donna introduce herself.
Wow. Mr. Davis, I have some talking points that I need to get from you. I'm Donna McClish, CEO of Common Ground Producers and Growers Mobile Market and Mobile Food Hub. And we operate out of Wichita, Kansas, and we serve Sedgwick, Harvey, Butler, and Saline counties. We're just expanding into Saline County with Dr. Smith and Kansas Wesleyan University. So you'll be seeing us. And like Dr. Holmes, I'm an educator, so I'm going to kind of sit on my seat if I get up, you know. What Common Ground does is we work with a network of growers that help us grow, and we move food to places that don't have access to fresh, healthy food. My parents bought a farm 54 years ago in Wichita, so we are the first largest urban farm in that area. And I don't know if some of you saw the clippings. Governor Kelly was out doing a tour September the 3rd of the farm, and she visited one of our locations where we set up. So what the mobile market does is we gather the food, we get our trucks and our vans, we put the food in the trucks and the vans, and we take them to HUD housing, senior housing, low-income families, so those places that do not have access to fresh, healthy food. How many of you know what a food desert is? Food apartheid, food insecurity. We began to tackle the issue in 2014 when my brothers asked me, what are we going to do with the produce that we have left over? And me being the oldest of 12 that always has a solution, 8 brothers, I thought, we'll just start a farmer's market. So my intent was to start the market on one Saturday a month from 8 to 12. People come out and buy, and you know, just kind of laid back, nothing serious. So the other issue I have is saying no. So a colleague of mine asked me if I could bring the produce to her location. They got senior market vouchers. How many of you are familiar with senior market vouchers? USDA is giving our seniors market vouchers to use at farmers markets, and there's no markets in their areas. So, yeah. So 2014, she asked me if I could bring the food to Shady Way. It was our first center. We loaded up what we had in a 2001, we started with a 1999 Pontiac two-door. Okay, then we went to a 2001 Odyssey Honda van. We were really doing good. Load up all the produce that we had, and we worked with one grower and took it to Shady Way, set it up outside. The rest is history. CP AAA called and said, we've been trying to solve this problem for 2 years. I have a committee working on it. And I said, so what do you want us to do? She said, I want you to go to additional senior centers. And I said, okay, we'll do that. So we went from 7 to 11, and in the last years, we've been doing 35 senior sites, plus multiple locations, and we do online phone ordering, and we do all of that. COVID exposed what we already knew about our food system, that it was very vulnerable. But our most vulnerable population, seniors and children, suffer the most because of this. And seniors have been our focus, but we've expanded our focus to include families, children, churches. We're out and about everywhere. During COVID, when a farmer plants and harvests, we were accustomed to having a downtime. We, December, January, we can plan, we can kind of work the ground and take it easy, take a vacation. COVID changed that. So during COVID, we moved food and partnered with our community partners for the Farmers to Families food boxes. How many of you are familiar with those? Those were sponsored by USDA. We moved with our partners about 1 million pounds of food. And that gave us a glimpse into the real need, because we could be driving down the street and my program advisor would stop and ask people, do you have food? And they would say no. So we'd give them a box of food. People would follow us in their cars to get boxes of food. The food issue is real in America, but it doesn't have to be like this. We're slowly making changes. I was in Washington, D.C. last week, or week before. We're working with the National Farmers Union on the 2023 Farm Bill. We have to start now contacting our legislators and those powers that be, so this 2023 Farm Bill can reflect the needs of farmers and agriculture. There's a shift from big ag, which we've had for many years, to urban agriculture. I'm an urban agriculturist. We have to have urban ag in order to feed communities. We can't take a load of wheat and drop it in somebody's yard. We have to have that processed so we can use it. So with that, urban ag is important because the local farmer has the ability to impact his community. We believe at Common Ground several things. One, that we have to pay the farmer an equitable wage. He can no longer make 14 cents on a dollar. That is beyond, that is unheard of. I mean, that's just ridiculous. The average farmer makes 14 cents on a dollar of all the things that he produces on the average. So we have to give our farmers an equitable wage. That means we have to maintain the cost, the end cost to our customer so they can afford it. So let me go back to the senior market vouchers. There's a book of six $5 vouchers that they were giving the seniors to take to the farmer's market. They didn't have a farmer's market. So that's how the mobile market came into existence. In 2014, USDA didn't know anything about mobile markets. So when I called to get my SNAP and all that stuff, they said, you can't be a mobile market. Yeah, yes, we are a mobile market. We move food. So that was quite, an experience. But they're getting it. They're getting it. So the senior market vouchers in 2018 or 19, we raised the amount of the seniors spending their vouchers 218%. The greatest need for getting food to where it needs to be is you have to take it to them. There is no way most of our families can access fresh, healthy food. You have to take it to them. We've learned that. So the senior market vouchers, USDA increased them. They went from $30 a book to $35. That's wonderful. It shows that it's working. Our system is working. We've got to pay our farmers an equitable wage. We've got to keep the cost of fresh produce to our end customer where they can afford it. Yes. So our motto, our mission at Common Ground is all, and I'm not going to take too much more time, all are fed and no one is hungry. Mm-hmm. So if someone comes to our mobile market stand and they say, well, I don't have any money, one of our staff may say, is this your first time at the market? They say, yes, this is your lucky day. Pick out whatever you want. Really? Pick out whatever you want. We will not allow a person to leave the mobile market without something in their hands. So we have to keep the cost on the customer's end equitable. They don't shop at Whole Foods. SNAP is, I believe, 85% of the farm bill, SNAP dollars. Those dollars need to go to fresh, healthy food. If we have farmers, when we have farmers in local communities going back to growing food for their local community, we're going to have healthy farmers, we're going to have healthy communities, we're going to have healthy cities, we're going to have a healthy country. But the farmer has to go back to what he was originally purposed to do, grow food for his community. Yeah. And we got to pay him. Yeah. We got to pay him. I want to leave you a couple of thoughts. Food is important to the infrastructure as roads, bridges, broadband, all of that other stuff. It is critical. You've got to have good food so you can have healthy people. The other thing is food has to be a policy issue, not a profit issue. When we begin to look at food as a necessity, as the hierarchy of needs, as the mainstay of healthy families, then we can move forward from this system that is monopolized and conglomerates and all of that. Slowly, that's, whether you realize it or not, that system is slowly eroding. Because I have nothing against the big ag. However, the urban and rural food desert areas have to be supported by local farmers growing local, healthy, good food, paid an equitable wage, getting food to people that need the food. Thank you.
So my leg is getting stiff, so we're going to stand up, everybody. Everybody stand up. Okay. You're standing on the foundation, the root. Okay? Your feet, we gave you that part of it. The trunk, your legs, we've given you that part. Now close your eyes and raise your hands to the sky. Wiggle your fingers. That's what Ryan is going to give you. Leaves on the tree. Leaves on that tree. Okay, sit down.
Thank you, everybody, for participating in that little much-needed stretch and breath break. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. There's not much I should even add. I mean, after Mr. Davis and Ms. Donna, other than some wild speculations about where we're headed, which is the future. And also my name is Ryan, by the way. Sankara Farm is the name of the farm that I'm at. It's on the Kansas City, Missouri side, and I'm also an artist. I'm an artist on the farm, and so Agro Art is a community-based organization that its task is radical socio-ecological intervention strategies, because the ecology includes human and non-human community, and so this putting the sociological into its proper place as part of the ecology of the cycles and the soil that we're on is kind of how I add art into the other cultural work that's happening on the farm. So in that vein, there's a lot of art education, reimagining the way we look at ourselves and our relationship to land and time. A lot of stuff that Omar talked about earlier is remnants, vestiges, impositions, and usurpation. These are some of the terms that I just wrote down in my notes, and get to we can see the similarities between native species, indigenous foodways, and then the usurpation and imposition of modern agriculture. And I was, so I was, but so, and so, yeah, there's you know, the socio, or the sociological is something that is, you know, for me, kind of sticking out. I was gonna make a joke about, you know, how many red hats are there in the crowd, because, you know, we all know, you know, there's been a rise of a certain type of, you know, I won't say invasive weed or noxious species, you know, but we can identify it's when it seeds, it puts on a red hat, you know, and those those seeds kind of can germinate, you know. But then it makes me, you know, as a farmer, it's like, well, then what's happening with the soil, you know? Is this fertile ground for, we'll just call it these red seeds to germinate, you know? Not to be confused with, you know, other red things, you know. but and so it also got me, you know, the remnants and perenniality, the cycles and seasons. It got me thinking about Billie Holiday and a song she sings. I'm sure we all know this song, "Strange Fruit." And so she's also singing about the soil, the you know, the blood, the bones, the tears that make this fertile ground for things like red hats to grow. That's a code word for fascism, you know. So, because I mean, it should be said, you know, because I mean, I've been asked to speak at a lot of groups over the past couple of years, and it's, you know, the cycles of time and seasons, and you know, there's a dimension of feeling and compassion and empathy that, you know, we all feel here. But there's also, you know, TPUSA, and there's the inverse sort of, you know, the red hat crowd. And there's another type of, you know, they have the music and the lasers and the, you know, and there is a really groundswell, you know, that kind of, you know, we can look at our election results, we can look at our school board meetings, we can look at our grocery stores, and we can see the evidence of this type of the fruiting of this denial of life, you know, as a way to phrase it. But so yeah, Billie Holiday and this strange fruit. What is it? What is this? Well, how do we grow something different, you know, in the future to make sure there's not going to be like 2020, basically a bumper crop of strange fruit, you know, strange. I mean, it was a bumper crop, you know, police killings of civilians, and you know, it kind of hit our national psyche, and you know, and it produced this, you know, this grant language, is historically underserved farmers and, you know, BIPOC communities, and it, you know, it's I mean, it's interesting that what struggle, you know, can allow to germinate. It's kind of like, you know, when we cultivate the soil, when we add compost to the soil, like organic matter to the soil, when we care about the soil, you know, some things that there's a reciprocity that can occur, and then we can achieve things like food security, and then aspire to something like food sovereignty, or sovereignty, however y'all want to, you know. Because and food sovereignty is one of the, I guess, the evolutions of sort of my engagement with the food movement. I've been farming for about 10, 15 years. And I started out just volunteering on school gardens because, you know, food insecurity, and the realization that our youth, specifically, you know, Black youth, whose grandparents were farmers, sharecroppers, whose grandmothers kept seeds, heirloom tomatoes, worked in kitchens, how they were so disconnected from land and soil and their own grandmother's, you know, seeds and practices. Not all of them, but it's, you know, you get them in a school environment and we start to forget real quick, you know, but then you get them outside in the schoolyard garden and the memories start to return. That leads me into one of my, so Return to Generation Farmer is one of the projects that we just started, which involves Mr. Webb and Ms. JohnElla. Dr. JohnElla, we're trying to kind of make believe that, or I guess to use the phrase, to usurp the colonial border between Missouri and Kansas. Because there's a lot of funding support that comes on the Missouri side, and the maternal mortality rate in the Kansas side is one of the worst in the world, you know. And so if we could work together, you know, Missouri Department of Ag would help support food distribution, you know, production across this border that was just completely arbitrary, you know. So that's one returning generation farmer is going to help to just, you know, sow some seeds for a future where we can, you know, have an organization that straddles both sides of the state, and it's specifically for returning generation Black farmers, because the conversation that I have with a lot of youth when we walk the fields goes straight to slavery. You know, it's like, and like Mr. Webb was saying before, we can just hop in our magic school bus time machines and go back to Cleopatra, you know, and her using worms, vermicomposting and Kemet, and I mean the whole that other fertile crescent. It's not crescent, but it's the, you know, fertile valley where agriculture has deep roots. But yeah, we're doing some soil science too. So the farmer. I mean, I guess there's a phrase. People's protagonism, that is a phrase that I picked up on a trip to Cuba, which was one of my, turned so many lights on in my field as far as sustainable agriculture. I got the chance to go to Cuba in 2014, and as far as the future of agriculture, the future of modernity, the capacity of modern societies, modern industrial societies to produce food, just to check out Cuba. In 1990, the Soviet Union collapses, and everybody who had a tractor stopped using it, you know? And so animal traction, urban agriculture, growing food where people are, the federal subsidies, how, I mean, everything that Mr. Webb Davis read in outlining what a food land reform bill should look like, it took place, you know. And so everything from being able to go to your doctor, which is, you know, universal medicine, and they'll give you a prescription to go to your farmer and get not only medicine, but not only food, but medicinal herbs, you know. And since it's a place like Cuba, you know, their deep ties to the land is food, medicinal, and spiritual plants, you know, because it's a tight synthesis that doesn't exist just in Cuba. It's part because you know, that agrarian. Those agrarian roots and agrarian tradition exist not all over the planet. I mean, we are terrestrial people, but the what I like to call the Upper Caribbean, where we are in Kansas City, because, you know, I mean, from New Orleans, Memphis, Chicago, St. Louis, up to Toronto, you can get Jamaican food and, you know, collard greens and gumbo. And they're probably related too, you know. But all throughout this region, you know, there's just such deep roots of an agrarian history. So as far as the soil science, we got a grant to basically extend the work of George Washington Carver, and, you know, that's my patron saint of sustainable agriculture. And you know, being a protagonist, being able to produce knowledge for yourself, not relying on the whoever's funding the agricultural extension, be it Bayer, Monsanto, Syngenta, but we can produce knowledge for ourselves. We can look through microscope, and we can also use our traditional ways of knowing soil, tasting, smelling, feeling, and we can get a microscope, run it through it, and show some kids, which is what we're doing. And there's other stuff related to that grant with spectrometry, using light to determine soil type. I'm not sure how long I can keep talking. I can keep talking all day, y'all. So the soil science, the returning generation farmer. What else am I missing? Well, so since I'm an artist, I'm always making, we're doing a fundraiser today for so Sankara Farm is taking a delegation of Black farmers from Kansas City to Atlanta to the Black Urban Growers Conference. And Black Urban Growers Conference is one of the largest gatherings of Black farmers in the country. and so to be exact, how many black farmers there are in Missouri, 207 is what the 2017 census data says. And I made this little zine. I made it before I knew I was going to give this talk. It's called The Black Agrarian Future. Takes root among the stars. And it's a little ode to some science fiction writer, Octavia Butler. But so yeah, and it starts, with the history. Because there weren't always 207 black farmers in Missouri. I looked up the 1860 census, and there was 3,944, and so, it makes me a little bit pessimistic about temporal progress, or it makes me a little bit more firmly grounded in sort of a non-temporality, a displacement of time. And so, and so we can add a whole lot more to that number, if I could host a meeting like this at St. Cara Farm in a couple of years, which is it's kind of one of the motivating factors behind applying for all these grants is building an organization that can dedicate itself to us not disappearing, essentially,
Okay, I think they're going to do question and answer, but I'm just mesmerized by you right now. Did you talk about the fundraiser? Yeah. No.
It's happening right now in Kansas City, and Simra donated. Thank you. Simra's up from Kansas City. Thank you. But yeah, we're going to Atlanta October 15th through the 17th, and we'll be able to meet more black farmers than there are in the state of Missouri. So it's like a opportunity we can't pass up, And so St. Cara Farm's Instagram is probably the best way to find out. Sankara. And that is the name of a person, Thomas Sankara. He was the president of Burkina Faso, a country in West Africa, 1984 to 1987. He was a revolutionary. He was just a really extremely progressive thinker as far as gender equality in a revolutionary context. You can still see the gender parity in Burkina Faso is very much better than in this country. This country that just, the Supreme Court just denied, rights to have its citizens. But anyway, so Thomas Sankara was just a revolutionary and planted a bunch of trees, and he's been an inspiration to the farm as far as daring to imagine another world, which thankfully there's not enough. How much? I'm not organizing the fundraiser. Our travel funds is what we're trying to raise. It's about 2,000, yeah.
So send your donations to, or Cash App, or what?
There's, you can just come up to me and talk. I'll talk to you. But also, yeah, StCaraFarm.com is the website, and there's a donation button on the website. I forgot. There's also a lot of great video and stuff on the website. You can also buy some art too, yes. Yeah.
Do what? We're ready for some questions.
All right. Again, the ground rules for questions. Please wait till you get a microphone because we want to make sure that we get questions on the feed. We have about 12 minutes for questions, so if you could be succinct in the question that you ask, and we will do our best to run wherever we can to get a mic to you. We're going to start on this side. Anyone with a question for any of the panel members? On this side. First dibs, yes.
Thank you for everything you shared with us today. My partner, who unfortunately is the first one she couldn't be here at, is teaching an African American literature class at a community college in Lincoln, Nebraska next semester. And I would like to know if there's some literature about your struggles and some of your lives, and what would be, can you help me with this?
There's a book called Freedom Farmers. It talked about what most people don't understand is in the civil rights movement, to discourage when they arrested people, they would make the local black farmer put up his land, and that way they would have to show back up. I mean, you look at 1957 Alabama, they outlawed and were going to arrest all the members of the NAACP. So that's one of the reasons that they were very cautious of not giving out our rolls. But Freedom Farmers is a book, and those other books of that. Actually, even I'm not a big fan of Amazon because they chase out the small bookstore, but they do have a lot of books, and the history's out there. And some of your 1890 land grant. There was about a 12-page report on land grant but unequal, and it will tell you about the struggles that a lot of how research money is not divvied up correctly.
Fantastic. A question from this side. Way back in the back. Way back. Back corner.
And while he's getting there, you can go to our website, commongroundpg.com, commongroundpaulgirl.com, and it gives you a history of what we've done and how we farmed for the last 54 years.
Can y'all hear me? Mm-hmm. So, sorry, back to the fundraiser. You said you only need $2,000? So that's like 100 people giving y'all $20, right? Has anybody got a hat to pass around?
Amen. There you go. There you go.
No, I wanted to ask you, yeah, we were talking earlier about music and food justice and that. Can you tell me what's your favorite song that deals with food?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I mean, you named a good one, Dead Prez, Stay Healthy. That's that deals with food. I talked about one earlier, Billie Holiday. That's, you know, who eats that though, you know. Wow, you got one? Yeah, there's a vegan Thanksgiving rap that's been remixed. It gets remixed almost every Thanksgiving, which is dope.
Thank you all so much for what you've shared so far. I thought that the Justice for Black Farmers bill was, this is Senator Booker's bill, and I can't remember who his co-sponsor was, but I thought it was gaining momentum there for a little bit, and ultimately it hasn't been voted on or brought to the floor or anything like that. And so do y'all think that any of those provisions are still alive and may make it into the next farm bill, or do y'all think that that legislation may appear somewhere else in the future?
Thank you for that question. If I understand it correctly, is the Justice for Black Farmer Farm Bill and the revisions. You've seen some of them get in the Inflation Reduction Act, and see the American Rescue Act, Section 1006, was stopped in court.
No, 1005.
1005 was okay, but it was stopped. The provisions were stopped in court. So then you have to reword it, and so that it'll pass muster in the courtroom. And you know, you got to understand that those who oppose us, the large corporations and all that, they're not unprepared, and they're not underfunded. You know, just because, and they're not uneducated. Just because they're against us don't make them dumb. You know, they're slick. But so then we have to work on the farm bill and put it in under the farm bill and bring it in under different sections. You know, hate to say it, but continuing resolutions. You know, sometimes you got to use them, and that's why I say that the African American and marginalized farmer has to be just as crafty as the other side. You know, as Nelson Rockefeller said in the 1970s, they asked him about, you know, money and influence. He said, well, I got 3 people called me. One person, she has a farm, but she has no money. I got another person that calls me. Then I got a businessman that gave me $200,000 at my last campaign. Now, which one of these 3 people is my staff going to tell me to call? You know, because the staff has already filtered who gets through. So a lot of times, and we love the work of Senator Booker. A lot of times he's worked well with Farm Action and other things and listened to us. But you got to learn that it's not just Senator Booker, it's his staff, like Adam and the other people that actually work. It's just as important to be kind and nice to them as it is the other people, because you're going to be sent right back down to that person that you met, that receptionist at the front door. So you got to be kind to everybody when you're in Washington, D.C. or the state. Yeah.
I know Donna has just been in D.C. working on the Farm Bill, and we also are working with Rural Coalition to make sure that some of that is made sure that it's put in the proposal for the Farm Bill 2023. I also know that we have a group that is working with Gildebrand on trying to get some of that verbiage in there too. And so we're working, and we need you all. Is there something you want to add about that? Oh, okay. All right.
So, is this on? Okay. So this is a question for Donna McClish, but it actually kind of follows up on what you were saying, Dr. Holmes, and maybe others can comment on this as well. So I'm from Friends University down in Wichita. We know a lot of the same people at the Health and Wellness Coalition, and
My alma mater.
well, thank you. Thank you for the shout out. I feel as though, you know, so there's a lot of emphasis on, you know, making certain that the local interests, particularly minority interests, are included in these plans that are developing. And I take a look around Wichita, and maybe other people here can look around their own cities, and they see, yeah, there's been some real progress lately. I mean, I'm thinking about the Food Master Plan in Wichita and the proposed Farm Food Council and whatnot. But I'm also listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking to myself, has Common Grounds been included? I mean, is a lot of this movement being driven by, you know, the usual, you know, upper middle class educated, college educated people that don't have a lot of connection to, you know, the populations that Common Grounds is serving? You know, is there a real reason to think that these things that we see happening maybe in some of our own cities to try to bring local producers and farmers markets into the mix is actually excluding the people that have unfortunately historically been excluded a lot of the times? So if you have any thoughts about that, I'd be interested to hear them.
So what I hear you saying is that we have a lot of plans in the works, a lot of studies in the works, but we don't have any action in the works. And I'm not against studies or against plans, but we have to begin to, we know the issue, food insecurity. So we have to begin to put those plans into action and include the people at the table that need to be at the table. So I think we're getting better at it.
Okay, Q.
Let me just add, if it had not been for Aubrey contacting me several years ago and wanting to bring us to the table, we wouldn't have known about the Land Institute and been a partner with them. And whatever we need in letters of support and programming and that sort of thing, they have been inclusive. And that is what's going to help change us with social justice and equity, is having more partners like that. Now, they have to have a bigger lunchbox for me when I leave in order for us to continue to support them. But I'm going to end on us saying this. The one common thread among all of us is land access and having that. You need to go to his web because Ryan didn't nearly do his farm justice and what they're doing out there. It is amazing. Go to visit his farm, pass that hat. If it gets over 2,000, don't worry about it. He's got children's programs that money will go to, so you don't have to worry about that. But don't leave here without finding out how you can help fund them in their program. When legislators and legislation, did we cut the mic? Okay, all right, because I was about to start preaching there, Reverend. Okay. Then you need to contact, you've got a new contact, Webb Davis, that will walk you through the policy and how you can support us. Because if I farm, guess what? You eat. If I got land and I can farm, then you'll have cotton for your shirts. And I want you to also know that the USDA, they're trying to really sincerely do some things. Okay, all right. They're really trying to do some things to support socially disadvantaged farmers. And that doesn't always just look like me. So those things are really out there to help, and we have some exciting news on grants that will help. And but it starts with partners being bold enough, strong enough, and in the right mind to help us.
Yes, it does. Common Ground in 2020, during the pandemic, we were one of 7 awardees across the United States for the Urban Ag Implementation Project grants. That was a shot in the arm for us. And the reason we can do those grants is because we have partners. And I first learned of the Land Institute meeting with KWU this past February. So what I'd like to see is those of us with like minds come together and share information and communication, because I don't know if you're aware of it, underserved farmers don't get this kind of information. A lot of times they don't have websites. A lot of times they're very rural. They don't have broadband. They don't have time to write grants. Farmers don't have time to write grants. We just don't, but we do. We have to get a communication system that is strong enough so we all know what's coming down the pike. We know that the Biden administration is bringing money in to fuse money in while they can into agriculture. We need to be accessing those funds so everybody can eat. Because what will happen is if there's some people not eating, then that will start to wear and tear into what you eat and what I eat and what everybody else eats. So we've got to learn to bring the farmer back to work, pay him, and we've got to give food where it needs to go. Thank you.